I became
this sober vet.
Don't live, don't live, don't live.
Our mission is to normalize sobriety with veterans who are using and abusing substances in a harmful, self-medicating way. All right, welcome world. My name is Joe Urich. I am Air Defense Artillery Army veteran, and I am joined by Dr. Teresa Thomas, also Air Defense Artillery Army veteran. What up, Dr. T? How are you?
Hey, how's it going? Doing well. How about yourself, Joe?
I'm doing fantabulous. It's good to see you, and it's good to be seen. And I was thinking this morning, I have a question for you.
Okay.
When it comes to therapy, how long does someone need to see a therapist, and is there even a set time frame?
You know, that's a really good question. And there's no fixed length of time, really. Someone stays in therapy as long as it's helpful and clinically appropriate. Sometimes a few sessions to address a specific issue, and other times, if there's some more things that need to be worked through, it could be months or even longer to work through deeper or ongoing concerns. So to answer your questions, there is no specific length of time for therapy. Yep.
So it's just as needed.
As needed. Yep.
Awesome. Cool. Well, thank you for that. And I'm sure that helps some listeners who are on the fence and not knowing. So that's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. So I'm super excited about today's episode. We're going to jump right in. We have a Army veteran, Marie Henriksen. Marie Slider Henriksen is a Combat Medic Army veteran who has experienced multiple traumas, addictions, and disabilities. She recently published a poetry book called More Me Than I Used to Be, A Journey to Freedom, which we'll put a link in the description of this podcast. She writes about healing with faith, overcoming pain and resentments. Marie heals out loud through recovery, advocacy, speaking, and podcasting. She is a co-host on the podcast Every Day's a Saturday, USMC veteran, Coffee Talk with Brian and Marie, encouraging veterans to heal out loud from PTSD to advocacy. She has recently created a Facebook group open to all for creatively healing out loud through community. So welcome, Marie. It's great to have you on. How are you?
Thank you.
Yes,
Thank you.
welcome.
I'm super glad to be here. I'm a little sick, so please forgive my my voice. But I wanted to say before I forget, so you guys were both field artillery?
Air Defense Artillery. We worked
Air
with
Defense
the
Artillery.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I worked with the field artillery guys when I was in Iraq, so I heard artillery. I was like, oh,
Nice.
fun.
Yeah, Dr. T was supply. I was a 14 Tango. I was a Patriot missile operator maintainer. And yeah, we deployed together for Operation Iraqi Freedom.
Yep.
Awesome.
But that's enough about us. We want to hear you and your story. I love your bio. I can't wait to get in everything. So do you mind just starting by telling us how you got involved with the Army and how you chose that branch?
So my dad was Navy, back in the 60s, you know, and I was not making some good choices in my life. And I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do after high school. I was like, I'm not going to get into college. I barely graduated. I was about to barely graduate from high school, and I just wasn't in a good place, and I needed to get out of my parents' house. And I got in an argument with my dad, and he made the comment, well, why don't you go join the Navy or something? And I was like, fine, I will. And the next week I was in the Army. And the reason I chose Army instead of Navy was when I was a kid, I remember hearing, be all that you can be in the Army. And I just knew I never wanted to be military, but I just knew that that's where I would end up if I did join. And so that's kind of how I ended up joining.
That's awesome. And how old were you?
I was 18.
Yeah, I was 18 when I joined as well. So what was your experience like? Where'd you do boot camp and AIT?
So I joined out of Utah and ended up going to South Carolina for basic training. And then I went up to Fort Jackson. Then I went to Fort Sam Houston in Texas, where I did my medic training. Yeah, so that was a lot of fun.
Now, is that a longer MOS? I would think so, because to be a medic, you have to pretty much be a doctor, right? To some extent.
Not really. So it's the equivalent of an NREMT, the National Registry EMT Basic. And
Mhm.
so it's kind of like here in the civilian world, that would be like an ambulance driver who knows like the basic stuff that can take over if needs be and can help people. But as a combat medic, you have the license to do a whole lot more. So
Ah.
altogether, my schooling was 6 months, but part of that was I failed one of the tests. They call it a double tap. I failed
Mhm.
it twice, and it was actually the female section, the OBGYN section that I
What?
failed. And so then I had to go back by a month. And so I don't know exactly how, and then I was like a holdover, hold under, like it was
Gotcha.
really interesting. So I'm not sure exactly how long the official one is, but I think I was there for about 6 months. September to March, September, October, November, December, January, February, March. Yeah, 6 months. And yeah, but it was a lot of fun. Just being able to learn. So you learn the stuff about being a medic, or about the civilian medical first,
Mhm.
and then they're like, "Hey, you can forget everything you learned because we're going to be teaching you about combat, and half of that stuff's going out the window, and you're doing shit like this." And
Mhm.
so they taught us a whole lot differently in the combat medic side.
Okay,
Got
very cool.
it.
And, I didn't ask, what year was this that you joined?
2006.
2006,
Okay.
okay. Alright, and then, you've had some deployments, I'm assuming?
Yeah, I deployed for a year. I was so after I did training, I was in Germany for 2 years,
Okay.
and after Germany, I ended up going to Washington State, and then I deployed to Iraq for a year. So
Okay.
I was a FOB Warhorse, in Bakuba for a year. I actually ended up my hips giving yeah, ended up giving out after
Mm.
I'd been there for about 8 months, going on missions nearly every day and stuff like that, and ended up, getting medically discharged after that. It took
Ah.
them a year and a half to officially discharge me, and I finished up my deployment, but,
Mhm.
ended up getting grounded to the fob, and
Hmm,
yeah.
Wow.
gotcha. Any, deployment stories you would like to discuss or bring up?
So actually, if you're okay with it, I have a poem that I have written about my service, and
Oh, yes, please.
this is called The Sober Bet, and
Yeah.
it kind of highlights a little bit of my journey about why I joined the military, and where the addictions led me in the
Okay.
Please.
military.
Yeah.
But I'll go into that, but I'll say a lot of my deployment was very clouded by I worked hard and I played a whole lot harder.
Mhm.
And
That, yeah.
in that, we were getting mortared all the time. I was a medic, so I was dealing with bodies and blood and guts and stuff like that. And um I didn't know really how to handle it, and so I did a lot of disassociating between
Mhm.
drugs and sex, alcohol. Well, not the drugs in Iraq, that was after. But,
Mhm.
the alcohol and promiscuity and just drama. I ended up getting investigated a couple different times, got an Article 15. There was
Mhm.
there was a whole lot of stuff. I just was not in a good place, and so I wanna read this poem to you that just kind of highlights some of where I was mentally with it all.
And is this poem in your book?
Not this poem,
Okay.
not my first book. So I'm in the process, of writing a second book right
Nice.
now.
Okay.
So my first book, just got published last year. I just got it on Amazon, and, I am in the process of ordering prints. I had to do a reprint because there was a mistake in there. I ordered a new section of it, so once I get those, then I'm gonna start officially selling it and do a book launch, but I'm also in the process of writing a new book.
Cool, very nice.
Okay.
So this poem is called Army Strong. I wrote it back in September. I joined to be all I could be, though I didn't know what was required. I had no idea that most of my life I would end up feeling tired. In the Army, it was because I was busy every day. When I got out, my PTSD kept the sleep away. You see, I came in seeking to find escape from my past. Instead, I found more reasons to build a stronger cast. Before I joined the Army, I faced adoption, abuse, and rape, yet I never dealt with them. I was in rough shape. I pushed my emotions down, not talking to anyone. Then the Army time was more traumatic than was fun. At first, it was personal: cheating husband, divorce, harassment. I also put myself in situations of embarrassment. I ran to the alcohol and people for distraction. I quickly realized it was not the right attraction. Then there was Iraq, where war can bring up drama. I got involved in a situation that caused another trauma. Then there were the bodies and blood I was to face. A little boy shot for being in the wrong place. The men who drove over a bridge and didn't make it home. Erin, who died walking to chow. Did she feel alone? Others shot or blown up, we put into our truck. We drove them to the helipad, lots of blood to clean up. We were always in danger. The mortars came a lot. I even know someone who on base was almost shot. Another section of trauma I had to face out there was our unit corruption. It was found in every layer. I didn't feel safe. Many in my unit were shady. I even found out a friend had killed his own baby.
Mm.
When my body gave out and I was grounded to the fob, I felt pretty crappy since I couldn't do my job. So, when they discharged me due to my medical stuff, I lost the will to live and was feeling mentally rough. The addictions then got worse. I was stuck for many years. Most of my memories are covered in my tears. I know that there were good times, yet they didn't weigh as much, at least not until I received a spiritual touch. It took me getting sober to see both sides of things. I can see my service now from above as if with wings. Sometimes, when I think of the experiences I had, I get lost in my emotions. I feel shame or mad or sad. The truth is that I know God watched me all along. I know what I experienced in the Army made me strong. The physical muscles came and went within their time. The lessons I learned while I was in were new muscles that were mine. The military taught me how I can endure, suffer through hard things without walking out the door. I experienced fun times, traveling a lot. I learned to talk to others and personalities to spot. Reading between the lines is an ability I learned. Many scars and bruises I also rightfully earned. They remind me that I've really pushed myself beyond where I thought I could go. Boy, was I wrong. My limits were only perceived by a close minded me. I got through my hardest days. I now can see that even though I wanted to give up pretty often, God gave me strength and my ego, He did soften. One of
Mm.
the best learned lessons was camaraderie. We can't face this world alone. We need community. I always thought I was Army strong, though my definition has changed. I thought it meant fighting alone, yet my thoughts have rearranged. I have learned to gain hope through humility. Asking for help from others is true resiliency. You see, the thing about my Army time that I never liked is that I had a battle buddy always by my side. I try to take this practice through my daily life, for when we lift each other, we can get through much more strife. When I tried to fight my battles in my head alone, I got lost in darkness and couldn't see the light that shone. It took reaching out to others to find a different way. I learned how to keep those demons at bay. I had to get help to process, not just push them down. I learned how to smile and not just frown. As I continue healing, I'll keep reaching out my hand. So when the next person falls, I can lift them from the sand. One day soon, this long war of life will be done. For now, to be Army strong, we must be an army of one.
Oh,
That is
yes.
outstanding. Your
Well
goosebumps. That
done.
makes me goosebumps.
Yes.
Like, wow. Ooh.
Yes.
You're a
Oh.
natural. You have a skill that is just I pictured that as either a movie or a song. Like as you're weaving it,
Uh-huh.
it's 100% could be a movie or like a Bohemian Rhapsody song. Like
Right.
just wow.
What a
Outstanding.
Thank you.
gift. Woo.
Thank you for sharing that because that was raw.
Yeah,
Thank you. Thank
it
you.
was.
That is amazing. Man,
Thank
you
you.
definitely caught me in the feels. That's
Right. Wow.
so
Thank you.
if that's any preview of what your poetry is like, I urge all of our readers to go to Amazon right now and find her book. Like I said, there'll be a link in the description. So that being said, so kind of let's go back. So I'm assuming the addiction of choice was alcohol.
Yeah.
Okay. Did that start prior to service or was that kind of
Yes. Yeah. So I had dealt with a lot of trauma growing up. I was adopted, and my biological parents were both addict alcoholics, and I ended up in foster care. And there's a lot of my parents did the best they could
Mhm.
with the knowledge they had and the resources they had, and dealing with their own past issues. And so obviously it's no one's, like, fault, but I dealt with trauma, you know?
Yeah.
And, one of those traumas was when I was 12, I, was dealing with some unwanted touching, and, I was introduced to drugs and alcohol.
Mhm.
And mostly weed, but alcohol was my big thing that I would do. My original addiction was food. I was a hoarder and a binger, and binging and purging when I started gaining weight, and
Mhm.
then self-harm, and then the weed. But the alcohol was the thing that kind of stuck with me. So my first drink, I was 9, but when I actually started drinking off and on, it was 12,
wow?
and
Yeah.
that just kind of stuck with me. And I talked about, just a little bit being in Germany, and in there, I got married to the first soldier that said he loved me, and ended up going through a divorce.
Mhm.
And that was kind of when I became a pickle. They say in recovery, you can sit in the brine, you could be a cucumber sitting in the brine as long as you want, but at some point, if you don't take yourself out of it, you become a pickle, and nobody really knows exactly when that happens, and you'll never be a cucumber again. And in Germany is kind of when I became that pickle, and when I started getting in trouble for my drinking and stuff like that, and that led me to some dark paths.
Mhm.
It's
Mhm.
understandable. Now in
Yeah.
Germany, do you have to be 21 to drink or how old were you over there?
You actually can start drinking legally at 16, so the military lets you start drinking at 19 when you're there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Uh, That's a good and bad thing because it's good when you're there and you're having fun, but yeah, it's a bad thing because
Yeah.
it just sets you up for failure later in life.
Mhm.
Well,
Mhm.
the thing is about Germany, and, I'm not condoning it and I'm not condemning it. But the thing is about Germany or some of the other European nations is they teach people, how to drink responsibly younger. So they don't go through all of the, "Oh, I'm hiding it and I'm being secret and this is exciting," and this, that, and the other, right? And so they don't have, I mean, yes, they have alcoholics, but from my understanding is their alcoholic rate is a lot less because people know how to handle, or they are taught how to handle alcohol a little bit more.
Sure.
And I don't that do not take that for quoting me at all. But from my understanding, from what I've seen, is they are taught responsible drinking at a younger age. And so it's not so exciting. Like for us, we're
Mhm.
not allowed to drink until you're 21. So when you're younger, it becomes the secret. I'm going to hide, and
Right.
it exasperates already the isolation that brings us to drinking, because then we have to isolate and hide it, and it's becoming something sneaky and stuff like that. And so um like I said, I won't condone or condemn it, but it's just something that I've noticed.
Germany, because I spent time in Germany too, and there's so many different types of alcohol
Mhm.
there in Germany, Volksmarches and everything. You get rewarded with beer. Do you feel like it worsened in Germany?
Oh, completely, yeah.
Yeah.
So the thing is it's not just Germany, right? As you guys
Mhm.
well know, um, kind of like the military is like a frat. It's a fraternity, like
Mhm.
alcohol, there is a select few who don't drink, but about 90% of all of my socialization in the
Mhm.
military had to do with alcohol. We're drinking in the barracks, all of our parties, all of our socializing is all drinking. Like, even over in Germany, one of our coworkers, local national coworker, owned a brewery, and so anytime we had any sort of unit get together, it was out the
Mhm.
brewery. So
Mhm.
everything is about alcohol, and if you go to the NCO's houses to go have, unit barbecues or whatnot, it's drinking. Just everything is about the socializing. You can't really do a whole lot at night, right? Because you can't travel because you have to be back at work early. So what do? You go right outside the base onto the bars.
Mhm.
And then you stumble your way back drunk. I can't
Yeah.
tell you how many times I got lost in the officers' quarters drunk, and my NCOs had to come pick me up.
Yeah.
Like drinking was just the normal thing. And in Germany, and then you go on vacations, right? And it's in Germany and everybody's drinking and all the big parties are drinking and all of the local national events. Everything revolves around alcohol. Like, I remember, you always had the Steins or you've got the glue vine, whatever it is, it's just everything has to do with drinking, and especially in the military. And, when I was there, it got to a point, like, I got in trouble for my first time, for drinking,
Mhm.
when I was over there, when I was going through my divorce, and I just kind of gave up, and
Yeah.
and I was drinking every day, and, just promiscuity and drinking. That I would go to work, I would work hard, like I said, and I would
Mhm.
play harder, and that was my thing. And
Yeah.
I started getting in trouble, and they actually put me in the Army substance abuse program.
ASAP.
And
Uh-huh.
yes,
Mhm.
ASAP. But
Mhm.
that was only for a month, and it
Okay.
was literally like 1 hour a day. And then I was at the bar in the evening with all my NCOs, and nobody said anything because I was hiding my drink, and I started getting Bacardi Raz and Sprite, so it just looked like Sprite. And so nobody questioned it. Everyone knew. You're
Yeah.
at the bar,
Yeah.
with everybody. Everyone knew I was drinking, like, but they just didn't care.
Mhm.
And so they didn't take it serious. But I was like, I had been showing up late to formations or not at all and just drunk. And they were like, hey, something needs to change. So then I just got better at hiding it. Just got
Got
better
it.
at hiding it.
Got
Yeah.
it.
That is
Yeah.
tough. And because drinking, like, I was in the same boat when it got to the point where I just started drinking every day and I was a very responsible alcoholic. Because I'm a business owner, so all my business would get done first, my paperwork, everything. But as soon as I did that last thing, like it was go time. And just, it does easily turn into every day because I don't know if it's because you're numbing, because it's just what you do. But I
Mhm.
I almost felt like there was, like, a demon or something else inside of me
Mhm.
that was also like, "Come on, Joe, like, let's get that drink. Let's do that drink." Like, there was a voice in me that was okaying everything, and
Yeah.
that's what really upset me when anyone, especially my wife, would call me out because me and the voice are like, "What? Like, I'd earned this. I deserve what are you talking I've never had a DUI." I would always go to the extreme where I've never gotten in trouble.
Mhm.
I just got lucky. Like, if I would was pulled over at any point, I probably would have got a DUI. But, yeah, that it just fueled my ego and that little voice. I'm assuming you have that voice too, Marie, because I see that smile.
Yes. Well,
Yeah.
yeah. So I actually have another poem that I want to read to you, if that's okay. So I kind of talked. We're kind of talking about in the military and how the alcohol hit, and it took me to some really dark places when I was in Germany, or when I was in Germany is kind of when it started, and then in Iraq I ended up getting in trouble over there for my well wasn't for my drinking, but the actions I took while I was drunk,
Mhm.
and the alcoholism after I got out of the military. And I know that we'll talk more into details and whatnot, but after I got out of the military, I ended up, let's see how many years. So 2011 is when I got out, and I didn't get sober until 2017. And
Wow.
so there was 6 years of just
Mhm.
excruciating alcoholism.
Yeah.
And it just was not good, especially after Iraq when I felt broken because I was getting medically discharged.
Mhm.
And, after dealing with all of the emotional trauma of being deployed and everything, like, my alcoholism just continued escalating, getting worse and worse. And so I just wanted to share this poem with you because 'cause you're talking about that voice, right? And, so this one, it's called "The Mighty Foe."
Mhm.
There's a poem I once wrote about a mighty foe. It's like a dream when I think of so long ago. Back then, it was just an average name of a liquidy substance some drink in shame. I knew it caused problems, it was easy to see. I couldn't fathom to drink it in the naive little me. No one could make me of that, I was sure. My heart was still open, my intentions were pure. When I had been offered my first little drink, something inside me decided not to shrink. I took a sip that I liked, then guzzled it down. If I had any more, I knew I would drown. So I swore I would never pick it up again. Then my heart got shattered and my story began. Alcohol started to be my best friend. Anytime I was heartbroken, it had an ear to lend. Every time I was scared, it gave me a hand to help fight my battles or bury me in sand. When I was cold, it warmed me right up. If I was tired, it was a great pick me up. I was lonely a lot and it made me new friends. However, it blinded me to all the dead ends. When at last I was shown the life I was leading, it was like a horror book I was reading. I had pushed away the ones I loved most. The face in the mirror was but a scared little ghost. The light in my eyes had completely diminished, and I knew at that moment I had to be finished. I had hurt many people and blamed it on them. Really, I was hurting myself over and over again. I've thought many times of the damage I've done. Now, with God's help, I know that I've won. The binds of this monster are finally falling off, though I feel it inside and hear it scoff. It says I can't do it, that I'll never win. It says I'm not worthy, that I should give in. When I refuse to let the fight go on, I give it to God that those fears may be gone. I know that He'll help me. He's given me tools to help me swim across the negativity pools. Some days it's harder to escape the madness. Those days I am grateful, not full of sadness. For those days remind me how far I have traveled and show me that alcohol's binds have unraveled. Now, instead of running or hiding somewhere, I know I can turn to someone who'll share their experience, love, understanding, and peace. There are plenty of others who have found release. I know I can turn to God, church, or family. Or if I'm not ready, I have friends who will hear me. Some strangers are willing to listen, I'm learning, for their past has also left their heart burning. So try as you may, you will never win. For mighty foe named alcohol, I will not let you in. My heart now does not have the space. It is a grateful, loving, and peaceful place. And as long as I listen and let God run the show, He will tie my life together, not with vines, with a bow.
Wow.
Oh, that's amazing.
I
Oh,
felt every word of that. That
yes.
was so good. Oh,
Yes.
Dr.
What a
T, I know you got
gift. I gotta go, but that was amazing. Thank
Thank
you
you,
so
Dr.
much,
T.
Marie.
See
You
you
bet.
later. Always a pleasure.
You bet.
Bye.
So Marie, that was amazing. Again, because like I totally relate to literally every word of that. One line when you said the light in your eye diminished, that's when I knew I was an alcoholic. See, when I was in the army, I just did my initial enlistment, so the alcohol for me was fun back then. Yes, I got Article
Mhm.
15. I did go down rank. I went E1, E2, E3, E2, E3, E4 because of my Article 15. But again, I was still having fun. A lot of barracks parties, like it was like the fun stage. When I got to the problem stage, and my wife and I, we've gone to church pretty much our whole relationship, but when I would go to church, I would see a light in all the congregation's eyes, and I'm like, "Why don't I have that?" Like, what spark do they have? And I'm like, "I'm a believer," like, I thought I thought like God wasn't working through me, but it was the alcohol dimming that light. Because, dude, I'm telling you, when I quit drinking, so many people are like, dude, you have this new light to you. And finally, I was
Mhm.
like, that's the piece I was missing. Because I kept going, nah, I can't be the alcohol because I'm an addict, you know? But man, when I finally let that go, I got that light back. So when you said the light in the eyes diminished, yes, that hit me right in my soul.
Well, what's really funny about that is that is one of the big things that helped me get sober and helped me move forward. So I started realizing that I couldn't look myself in the eyes. And because there was this darkness there, it's like I did not see the light. And it was the same thing. I could see the light in other people. I couldn't see it in myself, And when I first got sober, it was I can't remember how far I was. I was like 6 to 8 months sober. And I remember that I was in the bathroom. I was at this party celebrating someone's 1 year.
Mhm.
And I was feeling really alone and isolated and just in my head. And I went to the bathroom, and in the bathroom, there was a mirror above the toilet. And this sounds like really weird, right? But God shows me things in the weirdest ways to help me remember them. But
Mhm.
I'm sitting there and I'm looking in the mirror, and all of a sudden, I just see light. I
Right.
see light, and I'm gonna cry. I see light in my eyes. I see this glow around me, and I just looked and I was like, "There you are."
Yeah.
And it was the most beautiful feeling because I was like, "Oh, I do have light inside." And around this time, it was the coolest thing. So there was at some point that I had a cat. No, this was about a year later. Sorry, this was about a year later. And, I had this cat, and she had gone under the bed, and I went to go find her under the bed, and I had my flashlight, and I flashed, and I don't know if you know, but looking at a cat's eyes, when you flash light into them, it reflects the light back at you, and
Mhm.
it glows.
Yep.
And in that moment, God put this picture of, like glowing eyes and like it was just like, oh, that was what I saw in me. It was a physical representation of the spiritual thing that I saw.
Wow.
And I actually wrote a whole short story about that that's going to be coming out in a future book that I'm
Nice.
working on.
Nice.
And the story is it's called The Neighbor and the Stranger. And it's all about this woman who has this abusive it's an anonymous story. So I have no names, no nothing, It's just about the woman and the neighbor and the stranger. And so this woman has a very, codependent, abusive relationship with her neighbor. Because, what do we know about the neighbor? The neighbor is someone we think we can trust. The neighbor is someone that we are connected to, that we go to when we're in need, you know. And so the idea is that the neighbor was my addictions or my negativity, the alcoholism, whatever it was. It was what was bringing me comfort, but I didn't see that it was actually smothering me. I didn't see that it was abusing me. It would hurt me and then, like, love bomb me and stuff like that. And so the idea is as this woman starts getting away from the neighbor temporarily, she goes into this park. And into this park, she starts acting like a kid. She starts feeling, like, peaceful, and she's like swinging and playing in the snow and doing snow angels and stuff like that. And she realizes that there's a stranger there watching her. And she goes to the stranger, and she just feels peace with this stranger. And, the stranger has glowing eyes, and there's warmth that's radiating from inside outward, and just this wonderful thing. And she's like, "Oh, I've seen these eyes before. I recognize these eyes. Is it the eyes of my people I don't remember? Is it my future? Is it me? Like, what is going on with these eyes?" And then she starts realizing that she was seeing moments of these glowing eyes every time she'd walk past the mirror, and she would be like, and when she would go to double check, they would be gone again,
Right.
right? And so, like, there was all of these things, or and then as she makes her way to talk to this stranger, the neighbor comes after her or yells after her. And
Mm.
so then she turns around and gets distracted, but the stranger and then she looks around and the stranger's not there anymore. But the stranger didn't go anywhere. She just stopped seeing him. So she finally broke away from this pattern and got out, and as soon as she made the decision, like, "I am done with this," because she would come out and then she'd go back and come out and go back.
Yep.
But finally, she's like, "I have to be done with this," and as soon as she made the decision to walk out that door, the stranger was behind her closing the door, and
Nice.
then took her to the park and then picked her up and brought her to a new plane of existence.
Wow. And was
And
it strange
then
religion or God,
Huh?
or was it
It
strange
just
religion or God or whatever?
spirituality,
Okay.
God, like whatever your stranger is, whatever your higher power, spirituality, whatever it is that you feel genuine peace with. And so for me, it was, the sobriety and then spirituality. And then I'm a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And
Okay.
so it was Christ, you
Nice.
know. And so then being brought to this new plane of existence, and you start seeing more golden eyes than you ever could imagine and realize there is a lot of us out there.
Mhm.
There's a lot of us healing and feeling love and spirituality. And so that's the story. And I'm actually going to be working on a second section of it where I became the stranger for other people.
Nice. That's
And
all.
so God used me to show somebody else.
Wow. Oof,
So
that's amazing. Have you always been a storyteller? Because you literally have a gift. Like, wow.
Are you enjoying these stories of veterans totally rocking it with sobriety? Here at This Sober Vet podcast, we want to keep bringing these warriors' tales of triumphs to you. However, we need your help to make that happen. We're in need of sponsors for This Sober Vet podcast. That's right, now's the time to show your support, advertise your brand, or just make a monetary donation. It's easy. Just go to our website, www.thissobervet.com. To become a sponsor, fill out the form on our contact page. To donate, just click on support the mission. Let's keep shining a light for those still in the dark.
So when I was little, I learned how to tell stories in the aspect of, I want people to like me, so I became a chameleon type thing. And
Okay.
that was kind of my thing is I was either a chameleon or I was a peacock to stand out. And so I told stories with myself. It was like I didn't know who I was or who I could be. And so like I made up about myself. But then when I was in high school, is and I was into music, and so like there was that kind of stuff, but I never really wrote, but I did. But then in high school, I had been raped by my boss and his two friends when I was 17. I,
Sorry. It's horrible.
decided to go party with the big boys. I was partying with the big boys and they took advantage. They got me super drunk and had me smoke what I believe was meth.
Oof.
And then I was no longer in my body and just kind of watching this all happen. I felt like I had no worth. But I ended up and I'm probably going to cry again. I ended up here in Utah, because I was living in Arizona before, and then my parents moved me up to Utah to kind of get away from the life that I was living. But wherever you go, there you are. And I just got in with the same friends.
Yep.
So I'm in Utah. This just happened, and in high school, I met this teacher. His name is Greg Park. He's a local author and teacher out here in Utah, and he taught a creative writing.
You're good.
He taught a creative writing class. And in that class, he gave me a voice.
Nice.
He taught me how to use my voice. And so I was able to start writing. I wrote some short stories and I wrote some poetry, but it didn't really hit until years later, right?
Yeah.
So I wrote a little bit. I've got a couple portfolios of some stuff that I wrote. But then when I joined the military, I started writing music. And then I just got distracted, and I stopped writing for years and years and was just in my alcoholism. But when I got sober, God opened up a new voice. But it started by what Greg gave me, Mr. Park gave me in high school. That was the foundation that he gave me that I was able to go back to, and God opened up my eyes because, like, back then, I read some of my poems, and they were a lot shorter, and it was all experimental, and a lot of it was full of pain.
Mhm.
And the voice that God gave me in my sobriety is about the pain and also the hope that I have found.
Nice.
And so then it just started escalating, and I just published this book last year, and I'll say this, if anybody wants to buy it, go to sliderbabe.com and sign up for the email list. Don't buy it from Amazon. You can if you want, but I am working on getting copies sent to me so I can sign them and I can ship them out cheaper than what Amazon will charge you.
Nice.
So sliderbabe.com and just get on the email list. And as soon as I start selling, then I'll do that. But that way you'll get a cheaper copy and it will be signed.
That's
But yeah. And so anyway, so last year I got the prompting that I needed to get this poetry out. And I'm also working on nonprofit partnerships with this book. I want to get this book because this book is my story of how I found freedom and how I found God and spirituality and love and peace and was able to let go of resentments and God used poetry to help me put things into words, but my goal is to get these books into jails and institutions and just to give people hope. Like I had a friend who bought 10 copies and I gave her a free one so that she could donate them into an institution. And that's my goal is I'm looking to just, if anybody is interested in donating, to get books, or you can buy a bunch of books and I'll send them to you and you can deliver them. But my goal is just to get other people to see love and peace and joy. But God used the writing just to help me find freedom, to help me explain what is in my heart and to help me be there for the next person. Other people were there for me and just the writing has just been this huge thing. And it was kind of this bouncing block to or bouncing the stepping stone, bouncing block. I don't know. But it was this step off place for me to start using my voice because I was hiding behind the pen for a long time. And
Mhm.
then when God's like, "You need to publish this," then I started podcasting, you
Nice.
know? And as I've been podcasting, I've been able to get my voice out more, and heal out loud as I'm sharing my journey with other people, it's helping me heal more, which
Right.
led me to, being able to go into the psych unit in December, like I had told you, and then get into this PTSD program in January with layers that I didn't even know were there. And I probably wouldn't have known they were there if I hadn't published this book and if I hadn't started doing the podcasting,
Mhm.
you know?
Now, I could see and feel that God is totally working through you. So, thank you for having the intestinal fortitude to be as raw as you are, because you 100% have a gift. Like when you're reading these poems, I literally am tracking everything you're saying. Like it's so well done. So, I want to pause and kind of go back. So, when you were in the pits of your addiction, what was your aha moment to finally get you to stop?
So there were a few different, um, so this was 2016 to 2017. I had, moved out to Florida. I had been engaged and, was living in Arizona, going to school back in 2015. My ex and I ended up breaking up, and he has his own stuff, I won't tell his story, but for me, I was not in a good mental state, and we were engaged, but I wasn't ready for it. I was very insecure, there was a lot of codependency. I ended up getting in a really bad accident with his kids. I wasn't drinking, but in my alcoholic state of mind, I drove to California to pick them up from Arizona, never slept, and then drove the whole night with them.
Mm,
And so in the bright and early morning, my reaction times were less. There was a vehicle that was going too slow. I didn't see them until last minute, and I ended up just plowing right into them. And they were okay. The kids were okay. They were really shaken up. Um, but that weekend, instead of being there with my ex and his kids, kind of helping them come down, because that messes with your nervous system.
oh, yeah.
I decided, a friend of mine I found out had passed away, and I left my ex with the kids and went to this wake for the weekend and just used it as an excuse to get drunk all weekend
Mhm.
and left him there. And I also was, like, holding hands with this other dude and claiming that I was so good because I wouldn't cheat on my ex, even though I'm sitting there holding hands with this dude that's married, by the way,
Mm.
and it was like, "What am I doing?" But I wasn't okay. But I still didn't know that, and I was blaming all of my reactions on my ex, and anyways, I had come back, and we got in this big blowout, and we just knew that it wasn't gonna work out. So we had broken up. I, decided that I wanted to move to Florida, and I did it the wrong way. I took financial aid and dropped out of school
Mm.
and just left. And so after I had gotten to Florida, they told me that they were keeping my transcripts hostage until I paid them back, and so then I wasn't in school, so I was like, "Oh, screw it," and then I just started working at a brew house, and I was living with college kids because I was planning on going to school, living with college kids. I was 28, living with, like, 18 and 19-year-olds
Mhm.
and getting them drunk
Mm.
and doing keggers and partying and like and working at a brew house. My life became about the alcohol, and then there was the pot, and I was smoking all the time. And then I, like I had said before, I got medically discharged out of the army, and so I've got physical pains going on as well. And so then I'm also doing pain meds on top of it all you know and so I, at some point, realized, like, what the heck am I doing? Like I shouldn't, like, it wasn't about me drinking. It was, why am I participating with a bunch of college kids like this? I'm too old for this.
Mhm.
And so I moved into a studio apartment. And that was when I realized because I had been using other people as an excuse for my addictions. "Oh, I'm just being social. I'm just being social." And then I was like, "Oh, I'm drinking by myself. Oh, I'm going to the bar in the morning to have mimosas. Oh, I am, double fisting at night. The bartender knows when I'm halfway through my drink, he's handing me another one." Like and then always, having alcohol in my house, running to the gas station before it closed after last call,
Yeah.
to have some to last me until the next day. And I'm like, "Oh, okay, like this is kind of on me." But I still wasn't really recognizing this. But then I had a friend who I met when I first went to Germany, and she's watching this downhill. Or sorry, I when I first went to Florida, she's German, and she's like watching me go down this hill. And she worked at a psych unit, and she could see what was going on before I could. And at one point, I had driven to her house, so I had drinking 8 beers. It was and I can't remember. I think there's two different stories that are sticking in my head. But at one point, I had drinking 8 beers, drove to her house, and she's like, "Marie, how are you driving right now?" I was like, "Dude, it's only 8." And she's like, "I would have 2 or 3 and I wouldn't be able to drive. Like, how are you doing this?" And I was like, whatever." She's like, "You're bordering on alcoholism." And I was like, "Nah, I am an alcoholic," making the joke, and started laughing. And then I just kind of like, "I think I'm an alcoholic." You know? Like, there
Mhm.
was there was that moment, and then, my last birthday before I got sober, so September, and I got sober in January, so September of 2016, I had, was going to her house because I knew I was gonna go get drunk. I slipped down some cement stairs.
Oof.
And this is insanity, right? I slipped down some cement stairs, really hurt my foot. My foot is like gushing, bleeding. Okay. And instead of going to the hospital, I'm like, well, I'm going to go get drunk, and she's a medic anyway. So I drove with my left foot to her house so that she could take care of me so I could get drunk.
Oof.
That was the
Mhm.
insanity,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So there's that, and then a few months later, I went to go see my sister for something, and talking to my sister, I realized that there was just some mentalities that I had that weren't true, that there were some stories that I had made up about her and about some of my family in my head, like, okay, everyone hates me. Anyways, there was just some things that my sister was just like, "Well, Marie, here's the actual truth of what happened." And I was like, "Oh." So like my mindset, like I'm just in this weird insanity in my head. And so then the final straw, January 16th, a friend of mine had his mom tried to commit suicide because she saw her boyfriend commit suicide in front of her.
That's tough.
And yeah, and so he was having a hard time. And I was like, how do I comfort friends who have a hard time? Well, I get drunk because I can't deal with their emotions. So I get them drunk so they don't realize how drunk I'm getting.
Mm.
So we were in Jacksonville, Florida, got him completely shit faced. There was a split second where I had that thought, you need to get an Uber. And I was like, I was so drunk, but I remember it very clearly. Like we're laying on the beach, he's crying, and I'm just like, he's just a good friend of mine, and I'm just like holding him as he's crying, we're sitting on the beach, and I just remember that thought, get an Uber. And I was like, no, that's the price of a couple drinks.
Mm.
And so I decided to drive. And, in Jacksonville, Florida, people go 80, 90, 100 miles an hour. My dumbass is driving 70 miles an hour in the fast lane. And I'm swerving, swerving, swerving. Cause I'm like, I have to stay the speed limit, as I'm like super drunk. And I swerve so hard, I almost hit the guardrail and I have to overcorrect. I overcorrect and literally I felt God grab the wheel out of my hand and yank it straight as somebody goes zooming by.
Wow. Jeez.
My friend wasn't wearing a seatbelt. He was
Mm.
crying in the passenger seat down by the feet. He
Oh,
would have been dead on impact.
man.
And in that moment, God said, you are going to kill someone you love. You no longer are risking just yourself who you don't care about or strangers you don't care about. This is a friend of yours that you care and love about. You care about and love.
Right.
If you don't get your shit together, you are going to kill someone you love. And then he put a picture of my potential future children and said, you are going to kill your kids or your kids are going to see you drunk. And so I was like, oh crap. So I knew I had to be done. And that is when I walked into recovery that next day.
Did you? Okay.
So,
Nice.
yeah, so January 17th, 2017 is the day that I got sober.
Right.
And I remember sitting out in my car waiting for this meeting to start. And there was just a bunch of old guys that walked in. And I was like, I don't belong here. I'm not an alcoholic. I'm a woman. I'm young. I don't belong here. And I just sat in my car and cried and cried and cried. And finally I was like, I have to go in. I walk through the room and it's kind of like, do you know the beads, the bead hangers that lay down there
Yeah. In between doors.
yeah, in the
Yeah.
door.
Yep.
I walked in there and it was like I walked through these beads and it was just like my life changed. And I
Nice.
just knew it was where I belonged. And I sat down and finally some women came and sat down next to me. They could just see I was not okay. And the chairperson starts telling his story about getting in an accident with his kids.
Mm.
And God said, this is why you're here. And thanks be to God, I have never turned back. Now
Amen.
I have, relapsed into food addiction. I've relapsed into nicotine, into, other stuff, not drugs or anything, just like, just stuff like that, and but I've never picked up a drink again. I've never picked up a drug again. I've never abused pain meds again since
Good
then.
for you. So once you started that journey, what would you say were some hard things that maybe you didn't expect when you first quit, that you had to work through, and how did you work through them?
My mental health. My PTSD from so I have complex PTSD, right, which is from childhood and childhood stuff and then the military. And I man, that was the roughest thing. I had to quit my job because, I was working at a brew house at that point
Right.
and I quit my job. I started working somewhere else, but that didn't work out. And I realized like I just can't work because my physical health just started deteriorating because I had been, like hiding for so long,
Mhm.
and things are getting worse naturally, but also the drugs and alcohol made things worse. And so there's that. But the mental health aspect was just the big thing. I haven't been able to work since 2017, and like a typical job.
Mhm.
And that mental health journey was hell. So it was easy for me, easy-ish. I say easy, but it's not that it was easy. It was just I knew that I needed to do it and I did it. And God gave me the strength to do it. It was easy for me to walk away from people.
Okay.
Like I lost so many friends
Mhm.
in my sobriety because the people I was hanging out with were all alcoholics because
Right.
they're the only ones that could hang out with me,
Right.
that could kick it, that I could hide in the middle of,
Yes.
and so that was easy. Walking away from working, that was easy. But it was being in my own head that was not. And I didn't realize that I had been drinking and using for so long to run from all of the trauma from my childhood that I never addressed and everything else. And so, I made the decision between me and God. I made a pact. I said, I will do whatever the hell I have to do to stay sober. And sometimes that was curled up in a ball, crying my eyes out,
Yeah.
and sometimes it was like literally like when you're talking about the voice in your head, right? So I believe that we have our negativity, okay, or we have our own emotions and our traumas, okay? But we also have our alcoholism and our chemical problems,
Mhm.
right? And we also have negativity and Satan. And so I had all three of those layers. I had the addiction yelling at me saying, "Hey, use me, use me, use me." I had my trauma saying, "You're not worth it. Everything sucks, whatever." And then you've got Satan playing around with it all
Yep.
and just dragging me down. So I at points thought that I was flippin' possessed because I had all these different layers. Oh yeah, and then a year after I got sober, I got diagnosed borderline, which is it's on the edge of psychopathy. Like it really is. It's on the edge of psychopathy. It's on the edge of bipolar. It's on the edge of schizophrenia. It's on the edge of everything. You
Mhm.
know, and so, like, in those moments when I wasn't okay, I really thought that I was insane, and, like, I remember crawling into church at some point. I drove into church because I was like, "I don't know what to do right now." I drove into church, and I'm, like, crawling in there screaming, "Get him out of my head,"
Mm.
because I could hear my addiction, and I could hear Satan, and I could hear my trauma, and I just didn't know what to do, and so they ended up giving me a blessing just to help calm me down, and they're like, "You have the power to fight him. God and Christ have given you power to fight these thoughts and these emotions, and you can find peace." And so anyways, that was kind of the beginning of, like, my spiritual journey and stuff like that. But the mental health stuff, like, as I started really addressing things like, yeah, negativity, alcoholism, Satan, whatever you want to call it, was fighting me so flippin' hard.
Mhm.
And so after about, yeah, we'll say about a year and a half, I had moved to North Carolina. I got sober in Florida, moved to North Carolina. And when I was there, I got triggered to some childhood trauma. And that was when I ended up in the psych unit for the first time because I almost killed myself. I drove over train tracks, barely drove over them because I wanted to stop in front of a train.
Wow.
Yeah. And I was like, so I went to a meeting and there was an old veteran there. I told him what happened. And he's like, "I don't want to bury your ass next week.
Right.
So get to the VA."
Mm.
And so I was like, "Okay." So there, they actually had misdiagnosed me with bipolar, and they gave me the diagnosis of borderline and PTSD. And that is significant because bipolar is a chemical imbalance, and what I have is an emotional imbalance. So my chemicals were messed up because my emotions were there
Yeah.
for a while. So they
Mm.
put me on meds for about 5 years, and those meds I was off during that time. I also was working on quitting nicotine and caffeine, and I was coming back into my church, and I was doing all this stuff. And because I didn't have any of these addictions, I turned to food, and I gained a ton of weight. I ended up getting up to 250 pounds when I was in, or so the biggest I got was the beginning of 2022. But as I'm dealing with all of this stuff, I'm like letting myself eat. I'm like, I will eat. If I have to get to 600 pounds to keep me from drinking or killing myself, I will.
Right.
And so I will scream that on a mountaintop. When you get sober, if you need food, eat. Eat, eat, eat. And and alcohol turns to sugar in the system. And so the more sweets that you eat when you first get sober, the better you will be.
Yeah. Yep.
But anyways, so I'm dealing with all of this stuff, gaining weight, and also just working through my steps, working through all of this stuff. I'm on these different meds. In 2021, I moved to Utah. 2022, I started doing trauma therapy. The meds helped me get to a point where I was mentally prepared to do the trauma therapy. It balanced me out for a while. But
Okay.
as I started doing the trauma therapy is when the meds stopped working and started having adverse reactions.
Really?
Yeah. And I, dealing with the trauma and dealing with these adverse reactions, I'm having memory and comprehension problems, and it just wasn't good. And I started getting suicidal again. And so I went to the psych unit for the second time. And so the trauma therapy that I did, which I will again scream on the mountaintop for, cognitive processing therapy. If you are struggling with any stuck points, lies that you're telling yourself, cognitive processing therapy helps you identify the lies that you're telling yourself and helps you create new truths. And it was phenomenal. So it goes into, where did these lies start? Where did they come from? Let's process through that and let's create new truths. Okay. So anyways, I did that, end up in the psych unit, and they detoxed me off of 5 different medications in 2 weeks.
Wow.
They're
Jeez.
like they're like, "We don't know what meds are causing the most issues, but we do know you're not bipolar, that you're borderline, because you should not be having these reactions." And so then they're like, "And that's good." So they detoxed me off of all the meds, and I started, it should have taken like 6 months to detox off of some of these, so I do not suggest getting off meds that quickly,
Right.
and I was in the psych unit, so they were watching me.
Mhm.
So if you ever feel like you need to get off meds, make sure that you're in doctor's care while you're doing.
Good
But
advice.
anyways, so I got off those meds, and that gave me some time to process through a lot of stuff. After I got off that, I also was losing weight and dealing with a lot of physical stuff. My body started tearing apart. I actually got diagnosed with something called hypermobile Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. My
Mhm.
body makes a defective collagen, and so all my connective tissues are degenerating.
Oh, wow.
We don't know yet if it was triggered by the military or made worse by the military, because you've got the wear and tear of the body. I got medically discharged because my hips gave out. We don't know if it was toxic exposure that exacerbated it, but whether it was caused by the military, or it wouldn't have been caused because it's genetic, but worsened and triggered by the military, worsened by toxic exposure, worsened by my own drugs and alcohol, and worsened just by genetics, as well as worsened by the weight that I put on for so long. But
Mhm.
anyways, like I started just I ended up having to get hip replacements. I'm at a point now where I have to wear braces on my legs on a regular basis because everything kind of collapses. I wear a brace around my waist because of arthritis. I'm in the process of, I've got to get a hysterectomy next month or this month. I wear a brace on my wrist right now because I've got just a lot of degeneration going on. They also think that I might have an autoimmune disorder as well. So we're in the process of doing all of this, learning about all of this stuff as I am coming off of all of these mental health meds. And I end up in a care facility to get my hips replaced. And when I got out, I started doing an intensive outpatient program to help with my mental health, because I had also gotten stuck in bulimia. because as I lost the weight naturally and all this physical stuff started happening, my mental health was not doing very good. So I got stuck in bulimia. So I did this intensive outpatient program for my mental health to help me to get to a better place. Oh yeah, and I got married while I was in the facility. So dealing with
Got a lot
with
going.
yeah, dealing with relational trauma that I never dealt with when I was younger that's coming out now in this new marriage.
Wow.
And so I had processed through a lot of that stuff. So anyways, this mental health journey has been the most difficult, and that led me to last year finally feeling better than I've ever felt.
Good for
Okay? I published this book. My husband and I go on this honeymoon, we're spending time together, we're doing good. I start podcasting.
you. Nice.
As I'm podcasting, I am reliving all of my trauma over and over and over again,
Mm.
sharing my stories. And then my dad dies,
Oh, jeez.
which brings up a lot of other childhood stuff, right? So my dad dies. I'm doing this podcasting. I'm doing recovery advocacy as well. So I am a recovery advocate for trauma and addictions. So just people talk to me about what's going on. I basically unofficially sponsor people and, help them learn tools that I've learned, and I connect them to resources that are available for them.
Oh, good. Okay.
And so as I'm doing this and then I'm podcasting, my co-host and I are interviewing other people. So I'm involved in a lot of people's traumas and addictions and still taking care of myself, but not quite to a level. There was a level there that I didn't know I was. And so there was compassion fatigue that was going on. There was this trauma going on. I start, really struggling with dissociation because for people who don't know, borderline can cause, and same with PTSD, can cause something called dissociation. So there's disassociation and then there's dissociation. Disassociation, I'm not okay with what's going on right now. I am going to distract myself. I'm going to go drink. I'm going to go drug. I'm going to go party. I'm going to go take a shower. It could be healthy disassociations, right? I'm going to go take a shower. I'm going to go to a meeting. I'm going to go call someone. I'm going to disassociate from this situation.
Mm-hmm.
I was doing that anytime I would start feeling emotions. Like I used to disassociate in negative things, but now I'm doing it in positive ways. I wasn't actually allowing myself to feel the emotions. And so then my brain is like, hey, you don't like these emotions. I'm going to help you out. Okay. And so then on the moments that I wasn't disassociating, my brain would do it for me, which is called dissociation. My brain would leave, but I would be present.
Wow.
And so I would basically turn into this emotional 12-year-old kid who just was emotionally stunted and seeking validation and seeking comfort and this, that, and the other. My logic brain is out the window and I'm just living in emotion brain. And so that's dissociation.
Okay.
And so I started taking that out on my husband. And I was because my dad died, right? And my mom also was the week my dad died, we found out that my mom also is in the beginning stages of dementia and Alzheimer's. And so like I'm seeking this childhood validation as I'm processing through all of this trauma. I'm seeking parental validation that I'm never going to get.
Right.
And so then I start seeking it from my husband without even realizing it. And like, there were times that my husband's like, hey, this has nothing to do with me. Like, I need to walk away. I need you to figure out how to process through because I can't help you. And I would like literally in my brain, I'll be like, okay, he's going to take a break. Awesome. I'm gonna take my own break. I would watch myself follow him into the room and continue. Like I could not stop myself. I was dissociating. My brain was in, but I need help. You need to help me.
Yeah.
And so I knew that I wasn't doing okay. And so I ended up moving out from my husband for a little while because I was like, I have crap that I need to process. And we started doing couples therapy, and the couples therapist, I ended up getting into a dissociative episode while I was in there. And she's like, this isn't going to work until you get your individual stuff taken care of.
Mm.
And so even though I had taken care of so many layers over the years, so many layers, there was still this other layer that I just couldn't get through. And so I ended up, like I said, in the psych unit in December. And then I did this PTSD program in January where if anybody needs a really good complex PTSD program, the VA will pay for it, but you have to fight them for it. And it's mostly for active duty. So active duty veterans, if you need a really good program here in Utah, it's called Strong Hope through Salt Lake Behavioral Health.
Attention veteran entrepreneurs, we've got a special announcement just for you. Marathon Business Advisory Services is proud to present a unique opportunity, a J-Dog franchise, veteran-owned and ready for its next chapter. Whether you're looking to own your first business or grow through acquisition, this could be the perfect fit. And the best part, it's completely confidential, with no cost and no obligation to explore the opportunity. Just reach out to Jay Calandra at j.calandra@marathonbas.com to learn more. Support veteran success. Build your future. Let Marathon guide the way.
And it is a 30-day program or month-long program. It just depends on what day you get in there. A month-long program, and it was just phenomenal. They start from day one. Like, you're going to do a timeline of all of your trauma in your entire life and all of your maladaptive behaviors. And they start breaking things apart and looking how your childhood was affects you now, how your adulthood choices and experiences exasperate the stuff from childhood, and they help you figure out the different layers that you have going on.
Wow.
And so I got out of that in the end of January, moved back in with my husband. And so over the last month, I have been doing a comprehensive DBT, dialectic behavioral therapy.
Okay.
And so that's kind of helping me learn how to live in the dialectic, the and. I can be sad and continue moving forward. I can be sad and find joy. I can be emotional and allow myself to feel the emotions and not turn to addictions. And, and it kind of helps me learn how to stay present in the moment and be mindful and get back into my body so that I stop distracting or dissociating.
Okay.
And so that's been just phenomenal. So anyways, long story short, my biggest struggle has been my mental health.
And I'm
And
sure a lot of people could relate.
yes. And so it's just been going through different layers, like the different things that I learn, um, the different things that I learn affect me in different ways. And so I've learned so many different tools to help me, and like with all of this stuff, on the back end of everything is my recovery program.
Mhm.
Okay. So there are some of us who are mentally need more mental health, but many of us do recover if we have the capacity, to be honest, right? And so
Pause real quick. What you just said is so important that I don't want it to be overlooked. Can you say
yes.
that again?
So I can't remember how it's worded, but in recovery in the rooms, we said that there are some of us who are mentally, I can't remember word, emotionally and mentally, I can't remember the word. But anyways, those of us who are struggling emotionally and mentally, but many of us do recover if we have the capacity to be honest
Boom.
with ourselves.
Yes. So
And
important. Okay.
yeah, and so that's the thing is like the recovery groups have helped me, and I've done step work over and over and over again, and that has helped me not turn to the solution of alcohol or drugs. Okay?
Nice.
And that is great, but I had to develop a better solution. So recovery helped me walk away from the old patterns of behavior, introduced me to my higher power, who helped me heal and who introduced me to mental health professionals to continue going forward.
Nice.
And so a lot of people who recover through programs, right? They feel like this should be all there is. If you get sober, God will fix everything for you, and recovery is just that. And for some people that is true. For
Okay.
some people that's what they need. But for me, people like me who have a lot of mental health problems, I had to have the extra help.
Yeah.
And so I have 3 layers to my recovery always. I have the recovery groups, right? that helps me do my program and my step work. I have my spirituality, so I go to church and I go to the temple with my church and I learn scriptures. And I pray all the time. And so that's the spiritual element. So I have the physical element, which there's a program that helped me get out of the addiction. Okay. So that is the physical element. Then I've got the spiritual element with my church, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. That is the spiritual element. But I also have to have the emotional/mental element for me. I have to.
Yeah.
And so I have to be in continuous therapy. And like your Dr. T was saying at the beginning, like for some people, they can go through therapy and be like, okay, I've processed through this problem and I'm fine. And they never need therapy.
Mhm.
That's fine.
Right.
But people like me, I will be in therapy until the day I die. I
Yeah.
have to have that extra help
Mhm.
continuously. And every layer that I go through calls for different tools. And so it's like my whole brain and body has to be a garage of different tools because there are different problems that come in there.
Right.
And so that's it. Like if you use recovery, awesome. If you use church, religion, awesome. If you use doctors, awesome. If you use all three like me, awesome.
Awesome.
But just find what you need to use. The whole idea is just recognizing that we can't do the shit on our own.
Right.
Step 1, I'm powerless over whatever it is and my life is unmanageable. Step 2, there is some sort of power that can relieve me from my insanity. And step 3, I think I'm going to ask that power to help whatever it is.
Mhm.
And so like for me, God is the overarching for everything. God and Christ, they are the overarching for everything for me. But I have to have that spiritual element, that physical element, and that emotional element.
Wow. That is huge. So, first of all, you are so strong for number one, going through everything you've gone through your whole life, and then still to be an advocate, still to seek the help, to accept the help, and to continue to pursue the help. And then on top of everything you have going on, you're still kind of like sub-sponsoring people that are starting their journey as well. Now, that also seems like that could easily backfire because if you absorb all what they have going on, isn't that mentally tough too? Like, how do you deal with that? Because that's a very delicate balance.
Yes. And so that is where the word compassion fatigue comes in.
Mhm.
And I don't know. I think I told you about the podcast for veteran podcasters, right? The tip
Yep.
of the spear.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I went on there.
Okay.
It was cool. I was on there when I.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's that, but there's also a program called CAV Arts, and CAV Arts is veteran podcasters that teach a class of podcasting about podcasting for veterans interested in podcasting.
Mm.
And so it's called The Art of Podcasting through CAV Arts, okay? If anybody is interesting. But anyways, this week I was just on their little podcast and we talked about compassion fatigue. And that's the thing is compassion fatigue is a huge thing. And that is when you're helping other people and not taking care of yourself,
Right.
right? And so I struggled a lot for many, many years that I was that caretaker, okay? And the issue is I fell into the role of I fell into the role of caretaker not by choice when I was younger. And so then it became something that I felt was my entire identity.
Mm.
And then it became my worth. Okay. And so then it turned into resentment.
Okay.
And so there were different layers where it was like, this isn't my choice. I'm being forced to do it, but now nobody's forcing me to do it. I'm forcing myself because of my trauma.
Mhm.
And so I was doing 4 different service positions a few years back.
Well.
And in those 4 different service positions, I was not feeling God. I was not feeling connected at all. And I decided to take a step back and I stepped back from all of it for a while. And I was like, I have to take care of myself. And so when I started take care of myself, it was also around the time that I was doing that trauma therapy. And in that trauma therapy, I realized that I had been trying to like be a caretaker in my family as well. And I was like, I can't do this anymore. And so it took me kind of realizing that I don't want to be a caretaker because I have to be or because I'm guilting it, because God doesn't want me to do things begrudgingly, right?
Yeah.
His whole thing is about motive.
Right.
What is my motive for helping others? Because like you can read throughout the scriptures and he's like, yeah, you're doing good things, but what's your motive, dude? That's like the biggest thing. Christ teaches all about that. Like, hey, don't murder, but also don't have hatred in your heart.
Mhm.
Like, because then you're murdering your character and you're murdering other people's character.
Right.
So the whole thing is about motive. And so I had to take a step back and really talk to God and just be like, okay, God, is this the path that you want me on? Do you want me to help take care of people? And he's like, if you want to, yeah. If you don't want to, that's cool. We'll give you a new role.
Right.
You don't have to do this. And I was like, "Oh, I don't have to?" And he's like, "No, dude, you could go do your own thing." And I'm like, "Okay." So then I started realizing, "Okay, I don't have to do it, but I want to." And so last year was me kind of building up that this is what I want to do. But it was also trying to find that balance of this is what I want to do. This is what I choose to do, not because I have to, but because I choose to, which means I'm I am responsible and capable of saying no.
Yes. Okay.
I can say I can't do this right now.
Good.
I had to realize that as I was deciding to help other people, that I had to come first.
Right.
And so that took a lot of therapy, a lot of therapy and a lot of praying and a lot of asking God for the courage to say no and for the courage and the strength to keep moving forward and to not shame and blame myself, because that is the thing that I was doing is I was shaming and blaming myself.
Mhm.
Or instead of really doing it because I wanted to, I was doing it as a distraction.
Mm.
you know and so it's basically just trying to find that balance of recognizing that I have to come first. There's a difference between selfishness and self-centeredness. Okay, people think selfishness is this horrible nasty word. No, screw that. You have to be selfish. Selfish is that I matter first.
Yes.
Okay,
Mhm.
self-centered is I am the only one that
Me,
matters.
me, me. Right. Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. So the difference is I have to be selfish. There is a whole reason on the airplanes they say put your mask on first before you put it on other people.
Right.
Because if you pass out from lack of oxygen, you can't help anybody else.
Exactly.
And so that is the thing that I have had to do. And so, one of the things too is like I have been out of the psych unit, right, for a month now. But, my co-host has other personal stuff going too. But I have we've taken this break for the month of podcasting because it's like we have to take care of ourselves right now.
Mhm.
We can't just jump into doing our podcast right now. So hopefully we're going to start interviewing this weekend, but we had to take that little step back. So anyways, the idea is recognizing that I am allowed to say no. I am allowed to take care of myself. I matter and finding my worth. So I help people, but when I need to, I take a step back.
Yeah.
And then I pray anytime I go into helping other people or go into recovery or whatever it is that I'm doing, I say a prayer and say, "Okay, God, help me to do what you want me to do." And so when I do that, it helps me let go of the ego.
Right.
Because my ego will be like, "Well, I have to take care of people and I have to do this and you know what I mean? Look at me, look how awesome I am." But if I can let go of the ego, then I just let God do the work. And so there's also that aspect of, okay, God, help me help this person, but help me leave their stuff here when I go.
Right.
And so it turns into like what's really awesome is over the years with my memory and cognitive problems, okay, I don't remember half of the conversations I have. Okay. I don't. I just don't. Like next time we're on this podcast, I probably won't remember what we talked about, but that's just kind of what it is. And it's the same thing like when I'm doing advocacy. Like I'll meet this person, they'll tell me their entire life story, and the next time I see them, I don't remember anything that they told me.
Okay.
And at first I was really like shaming and blaming myself, like, oh, am I just not paying attention? Am I this horrible person? And I'm like, there's no reason to shame and blame myself. And then I had a prompting from God, and God's like, hey, I'm doing this for a purpose. And I was like, well, what's the purpose? And he's like, well, that way you can be present with them.
Ah,
I
nice.
was like, oh, so then I'm not thinking about everything else that they told me before, or
Right.
I'm not thinking about other people's stuff. I'm not thinking about my own problems, because like I'll forget my own stories sometimes, you
Mhm.
know. But God's like, no, I want you to just be present, and you weren't being present. You were so focused on what you were supposed to do and how it was supposed to look and what you were supposed to say and how you're supposed to take care of people, and you were trying to take responsibility for everybody's life. And God's like, I don't want you to do that. I want to take control of people's life. So I just need you to be there and to listen and to be present and to be with them.
Right.
And so that is where it really helped me. When I started just letting go of the ego, letting go of the control of what this conversation is supposed to be about or how I'm supposed to help somebody, things just started working so much easier.
That's awesome. Now, I have a question, especially when it comes to religion. So, like I said, I'm very religious. I've relied on religion very heavily for my sobriety. I've come across some people before that, in my opinion, relied too heavy on, well, I just give it up to God. I just, if I have something to do, I just give it up to God. But then I realized that they don't take action, whether it's positive or negative. They just kind of wait, and their whole mantra is, well, I just give up to God. He'll tell me what to do. I almost feel like that's counterproductive because, like, you still need action with belief and religion, right? Have you come across that?
Yes. Oh, yeah. So the way that I counteract that with myself, or what I share with other people, okay? When people say, you know, just take the next right step, okay? And that's the thing. Like give it to God. Take the next right step that he tells you, just do this. Give it all to God. I don't like that. Okay? Because I don't always know what the next right step is. And sometimes God doesn't tell me right away.
Right.
And sometimes he is silent, or sometimes I get told to do something weird. Anyways, so like the idea is like I don't always know what the next right step is, but I know how to take the next step right. And so that is the idea in whatever step that I make, because realistically I've learned that sometimes God doesn't care where you go or how you do it. He just says to go.
Hmm.
And he's like, "I'm gonna use you where you're at, dude."
Yeah.
Like there will always be somebody that you can help. There will always be a lesson to learn. There will always be something to do. I'm going to use you no matter where you're at. And that's kind of like that mindset when I asked him, like with the caretaking stuff, and he's like, "You don't have to do this. I'm going to use you wherever you go. If you don't want to be a caretaker, if you don't want to be an advocate, cool. I'll use you if you want to go and work in an office all day or whatever it is." Like he's like, I'm going to use you. And so anyways, the idea is recognizing, that God doesn't want us to sit still, and he's not always going to tell us what to do. And also, here's just a random side note. Someone told me this, and I love the way it was worded. God won't send an angel when a person will do.
Oh, I like that. Nice.
So if we're waiting around for this like huge, God's going to do this, or he's going to send an angel, or he's going to do this, then we're losing opportunities.
Right.
And the thing is like God wants us to have experience and opportunities. And so the idea is I don't always know where I'm going to go. I don't want to wait for God to hand me something on a golden platter, because he won't always do that. He just won't. And sometimes there are questions that will never be answered, right? We will never know why or what. But what I have learned is I can like, for so many years, and I'm going into random circles,
You're good.
but for so many years I was stuck in the why. Why do I have to do this? Or the when. When is this going to happen for me?
Hmm.
Or the, all of the what. It's like, what do you want me to do?
Right.
I stopped asking the W questions: who, what, where, when, and why. I stopped asking those questions, and I started asking how.
Mm.
How can I move forward? How can I more fully trust God? God. And the idea is, okay, I'm going to take this step. I don't know if it's the right step. I feel like I should take it because I have intuition. And the whole idea is becoming as God is, right? So we learn how to think and feel like God. That's the whole goal of this life,
Yep.
right? And so I have this intuition. I don't know if it's right or not, but it's a step that I feel like I need to take. So I'm going to take it. And how am I going to take it? I'm going to take it by saying, okay, God, I'm taking this step. If this is the wrong step, I need you to let me know.
Right.
If it's the right step, then please help me take it. This is what I'm feeling. It's really heavy. I need you to make it lighter for me if it's something that you want me to do.
Mm-hmm.
And so no matter what I do, I am looking at how can I do this? Okay, God, how do you want me to move forward? How can I move forward? I can move forward with God's help. That is the how. And that has led me to some really weird things because God does weird shit with me sometimes.
Yep.
Okay. And the thing is, it's like when I'm focusing on the how, okay, then good things may be the wrong answer and wrong things may be the right answer.
Mm.
And the reason I say this, okay, the whole idea of how am I doing things and the motives, right? How am I doing things? One example of a really good thing done in the wrong way was when I was first out of the military, I had the feeling I needed to go to Florida. God told me, you need to go to Florida. And I was like, okay, I chose addiction and a man instead. So I stayed in Arizona and got in a very codependent alcoholic relationship. Okay. After we broke up, I had the feeling again, go to Florida. And I was like, okay. And I did it the wrong way. I dropped out of school, I took financial aid, and I left.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I have a feeling if I did it the right way and I did it when I was supposed to, I would have gotten sober sooner.
Mm.
Okay.
Possible.
There was an opportunity, there was a door that I didn't walk through, but that's okay,
Mm-hmm.
because God always opens other doors, but that was an example of doing it the wrong way. I left without processing through my trauma. I left ditching my ex. I left dropping out of school and taking financial aid. And so that led me to a year and a half of another bottom because I just was not in a good place. Okay. So that's an example of doing the right thing for the wrong, in the wrong way.
Wrong way. Yep.
So my how was not very good because I could have, okay, I'm going to go ahead and go, but I'm going to wait until the semester's over. I'm going to da-da-da-da-da. There's so many different ways that I could have done it, but I don't need to shame myself for it. But it's just an example of doing the right thing the wrong way. Okay.
Yep.
Now, then I had an experience. This is something completely different. So this is doing something perceivedly wrong for the right reason and giving it to God and Him doing wonderful things. Okay. An example was when I first got sober and I moved up to North Carolina, I was meditating and it was 10 o'clock at night. And I got this feeling you need to go to this meeting. And I was like, okay, there's a 10 o'clock meeting that's like 5 minutes away. And he's like, nope, you need to go to this one half an hour away. I'm like, but I'm going to be a half an hour late for this meeting. And he's like, I don't care. You need to go. And I was like, all right, fine. So I'm driving. And as I'm driving, I see a man walking on the side of the road. And it was snowy and it was cold and it was dark. And mama always told me never pick up strangers. Never pick up strangers.
Mm-hmm.
And
What do you
I
think?
had this feeling that I needed to pick him up.
Uh-huh.
And that is something that's perceived wrong, right? Picking up somebody on the side of the road. And I was like, hey, dude. And like, I was like, okay, God, like, I feel like this is what that this is what you want me to do. This is a feeling that I'm going to do it, but I'm worried about it. So help me know how to do it. So I pulled out my knife. I put it in my pocket. So I had it. And I was like, I need you to protect it. So I go and I talk to this guy and I'm like, hey, do you want to ride? And he just kind of looked at me. He's like, I don't usually get in cars with strangers. I was like, I don't usually pick up strangers.
Right.
And he's like, okay. So he gets in the car. Come to find out that man was on his way to relapse.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so then I was like, hey, dude, I'm heading to a meeting. Do you want to go? He's like, sure. We get to a meeting. Okay. No meeting. The meeting doesn't exist anymore, or nobody showed up for it.
No way.
No meeting. So we had an hour-long meeting, a half an hour there and a half an hour back, just between the two of us,
Right.
and I was able to take him to a meeting the next day. He since relapsed, and I'm not sure if he's sober still or if he got sober again. I don't know. But that was a situation, where probably doesn't look the right thing to do.
Right.
And I actually went to a meeting and I talked about this, and some lady's like, "Well, my God wouldn't ask me to do that." And I was like, "Well, that's why he asked me."
Boom. Nice.
Because that's the thing, is like, it may look wrong for someone else, but
Mm,
if I'm doing it the right way, God is going to use it.
absolutely. Yeah.
And then just another small example of this, smoking. Okay. I had been smoking off and on for years, and I was like, I want to quit smoking. And I had quit smoking so I could get my hip replacements.
Okay.
In between my hip replacements, I started smoking again. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, God, like, I know that I need to quit. I don't want to do this. It's something that goes against my religion. It goes against my values. It's making me sick. And it's also risking me my body, because I just got this one surgery and now I'm getting another, and like, I don't want to do this. And I was like, but I don't know how to quit. And God's like, and I was like, can you help me turn this into a tool so that I can break the addiction? And so he's like, "Okay, yeah, let's make this a tool." I was like, how can I move forward? How can I turn this for your glory?" And he's like, "Okay, if you're going to smoke, I only want you to smoke while you're socializing with old vets in this veteran home who are lonely. So
Okay.
you're only going to smoke when they're smoking." And so I was like, "Okay." Well, because I gave that chain to God, he broke the chain,
Wow.
and I ended up overcoming the smoking, and I haven't had a cigarette since.
Outstanding. That's awesome.
Yeah. And so that's the thing. That's an example of, this is something that's perceived wrong, smoking, you know? But it's like, okay, God, help me use this as a tool. And so there's a lot of other things that I've done that with other personal addictions that I've had. And I'm like, God, this is something that you probably don't want me to do, but I'm not going to pretend like I'm ashamed, or I'm not going to hide in my shame anymore with it. So
Mhm.
I'm going to give it to you, because this is how I'm moving forward. I am moving forward by giving this to you. I don't know how to quit whatever this addiction is, but I'm going to give it to you so you can break the chains.
Right.
And so that's the thing, is like, no matter what you're doing, good or perceived bad, right? As long as you are saying, "Hey God, I'm going to move forward and you tell me how to do this. You give me the strength to break whatever chains that you need. You give me the strength to do the things that I need." But we have to take action. We have to.
Absolutely. Yeah. Now, I love everything you're saying because I feel like our listeners totally need to hear this. For the listener who is either just broke their addiction or still is in their addiction and is like just in that mental space where God gave up on me, like what she's saying sounds amazing, but like I haven't talked to God in 10 plus years. He doesn't want to talk to me. What would you say to that person?
Do it anyway. That's the big thing. I don't think God will listen to me. Talk to him anyway.
Yeah.
I don't think that this sobriety thing will work. Do it anyway. Like the biggest thing that I will say is in my sobriety, I have learned that I have a fallen brain. If you go into spirituality, okay, we believe that we are in a fallen world, our religion, sorry. If you
Mhm.
go into religion, we believe that we are in a fallen world, that our minds and bodies are sick, and that, at least in my belief, with the atonement, we need the atonement to heal us, right? So the idea is that my brain is part of this fallen body. Okay. If you go into addiction, we believe that our mind and body, our spirit are sick, right? We have the allergy to the substance, or this, that, and the other. So we have this addictive brain. Okay. In so many different layers, we have negativity, we've got chemical imbalances with mental health, we've got all of this stuff that affects our brain. But what all of this stuff does not affect is our spirit, our intuition,
Mhm.
our love,
Right.
right? And so what I have learned is to tell my brain to shut the hell up,
Mhm.
and I listen to my spirit and I move forward anyway.
Nice.
I know that there is a lot of fear and doubt, that comes with addictions or with traumas or with our past mistakes. There is a lot of it, and our brains will keep telling us that we are horrible people. Our addictions will get in there, negativity, Satan, whatever you want to call it, will continue going in there. But I choose to listen to my heart and I choose to listen to my spirit. And as I listen to my spirit, my brain starts being nicer. You
Mm.
know what I mean?
Yep.
And so that's the thing is I can't listen to those negative thoughts. God, your spirituality, higher power, whatever you want to call it, is there, and it is by nature good. And
Right.
it wants us to feel love. It wants us to feel joy. It wants us to feel connection, right? You look into somebody made this comment and I loved it. The opposite of addiction is not sobriety. It's connection,
Mm.
because addiction by nature isolates us.
Right. Wow.
It Yes. And so it's depending on a substance instead of natural connection. And so the idea is, even if you're fearful of what's going to happen, say a prayer anyway and just say, God, help. I don't know who you are, universe, help. You
Mm.
just do it anyway,
Right.
or you reach out to somebody else. And if that one of the coolest things that somebody said too is like, I don't think my God would listen to me. Right? I don't think, God is this all powerful thing, or my religion traumatized me with this or blah 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 blah, right? My God won't listen to me. Okay, my God will. So if you can't hold on to yours, if your God isn't working for you, hold on to mine
Love that.
until you can figure out your own. My God is big enough to listen to you. So if you can believe that I believe, hold on to that belief.
Awesome.
And let my God give you love until you can find yours. Because I'm a firm believer that God is God, right?
Mhm.
But we have been traumatized or brutalized or what's it called when you have been mind controlled, not mind controlled,
Brainwashed,
but manipulated,
manipulated. Yep.
stuff like that. We have all of these things in our mind that we don't believe that we're worthy of love, or we don't believe that our higher power will love us. But the whole idea is that he does, whether you believe it or not.
Absolutely. Yep.
That the higher power is there. The universe is actively working in your favor
Mhm.
in many, many ways, if you just want to call it universe. And so if you feel like you are not worthy, try it anyway. Treat life and love and recovery as a buffet. When you go to a buffet, right, you don't know what you're going to like until you try it, because every buffet is different, right?
Right.
Every food item is different. You don't know what you're going to like until you try it. So try it anyway,
Mhm.
and then create a meal that works for you.
Nice. Very well said. I love that. So I relate to your story in the sense that in the beginning of COVID, so my dad was an alcoholic, great dad, but still an alcoholic. That's what kind of passed it down to me. He passed away in the beginning of COVID due to COVID complications. My mom, 2.5, almost 3 years ago, we was diagnosed with dementia, so we put her in this rehab place that's local. I still go see her as often as I can. It's now to the point where sometimes she knows who I am, sometimes she doesn't. She talks the most random things, like what the conversations with her make no sense, but I still go because I feel that God has told me that even though mom's not with it, she knows that I'm good and I love her. And to have someone good that loves her around her is the best thing for her. So I just go. Sometimes she thinks I work there. Sometimes she thinks I'm a stranger. Sometimes she thinks I'm her brother, whatever it may be. And I sit with her. I try to stay for at least an hour. It's so funny though, because mom, like 20 minutes in, she'll like, all right, well, it was good seeing you. And I'm like, no, we're not done yet, ma. I only been here for like 15 minutes. Why do you keep calling me mom? Like, it's a bizarre thing, but I sit with that hurt because it does hurt. Cause like my mom was not a heavy drinker. She never smoked. She was active her whole life, always on point, like just super intelligent. The world was like her playground. Like she was always exploring. She loved like learning, forever a student. Like she was just, she's what I want to be and I try to be. And to see her in this mental state where like she doesn't know what's going on, like she's just, in my opinion, she's in a prison right now. She can't live free. But God has told me that she's not suffering. Right now, I'm suffering more than she is because she's just kind of like, do, like, this is my life. Like, she doesn't know any better. And I'm witnessing the deterioration of this woman who I've looked up to my whole life, you know? So, like, it's very difficult to deal with. And I don't know what level your mom is or how close you are with her, but my suggestion is to just do what I do. Just try to be there when you can because they know that you're a good aura and they know that you love them. And even though they may be confused with their situation, nothing negative can come from spending time with them because again, it's a positive influence. But dementia is tough because it don't get better. It starts here and then it just it just gradually goes down until the brain pretty much eats itself. Like it's like the beginning of the ends, which is a horrible thing. But yeah, I totally relate with the father passed away, mom dementia. Like I'm same boat, and it tests us. It does, especially as addicts. Everything tests us, but things like that, because there's always that voice back there, like, and it tells me, Joe, that Southern Comfort's always at the store if you need it, you know? And I'm just like, fuck you, dude. Like, I don't need it, you know? Like, I'm going to eat this. I'm going to adapt and overcome. And that's when I really rely on my religion because when I hear that voice, I always turn to God and go, God, can you please shut him up? Because, like, I'm yours. Like, he has no control over me. I'm doing your work. And like you said with your podcast, this podcast is therapy for me because as I hear other people's stories, I totally relate on such a human level because we all suffer. We're as addicts, we've like mastered suffering, you know, by
Mhm.
being addicts. And now we're trying to navigate life post that. So just hearing other people's story, it just motivates me to continue to stay sober. So I just want to say thank you because the resilience you show and the strength that you show with all that you've been through, and you're doing it with a smile on your face. You're truly inspiring. And again, the poetry thing and just like your rhetoric and just your way with words, like I'm in awe. So I'm just yeah, you're amazing.
Thank you. Can I read you one more poem?
Please do. Absolutely.
So, talking about the mentality with it all, right? This poem is called The Power of Thoughts. And I wrote this one at what, 11 months sober,
Okay. Nice.
10 months sober. And I think you'll appreciate this one. So, the power of thoughts. Thoughts are more powerful than 1,000-pound weight. They can push and pull inside you, change your focus from love to hate. They can chain you down to the bed where you rest. They can definitely guilt you for not being good, better, best. They can contort the way all faces appear, especially the one looking back from the mirror. They can make you assume the world would be best if you can just stop breathing with the rest. They can make you see that darkness is better and there's no point at all to be a goal setter. Don't fret. The solution from all of this madness is just changing those thoughts from pain, gladness. You see, thoughts are more powerful than 1,000,000-pound weight. They can lift you up higher than this mortal state. They can open your eyes to a paradise of love filled with a light as bright as the sun up above. They can fill your heart with the connection we share with nature, each other, all things, everywhere. They can contort the pain in everyone's faces to become a gratitude of having been to those places. They can remind us of old pains and fears so we can be supportive and help others shed tears. Again, thoughts are more powerful than anything you can imagine. They actually control the heaven or hell you're living in.
Wow.
So, I ask you today to go into your mind alone or with help, go deeply to find the motivation to change your thoughts' point of view from pain, anger, sadness, or anything askew, and turn it towards hope, love, faith, and peace. And you will find in the end an eternal release.
Outstanding. Well, this has been an absolute joy having you on, and I appreciate all the insight and the rawness that you brought to this episode. And I always ask our guests if there is someone struggling on the fence, have tried quitting whatever their drug of choice is a couple times, and they keep going back to it. What advice would you give them to kind of quit for the final time, the last time?
Make a decision. Like what I did was I made a decision that I will stay sober no matter what. I will do I actually, use the F-bomb sometimes, but I won't on here. But I tell myself I will do whatever the hell I have to do to stay sober. And I made that decision, and then it turned into, "Okay, God, I need your help to do this." And so it's like anything that I do, I will do it rather than drink, right? Like I will go to the psych unit. I will walk away from friends. I will walk away from family. I will walk away from situations, people, places, and things. If it is going to risk my sobriety, I walk away from it. Now, once I have better standing and a better foundation, then I can be around some of these people, or some of these places. But at the beginning, I had to walk away from it all.
Mhm.
I had to say, this has to be the most important thing. I had to walk away from a job. I had to walk away from everything. I've been to the psych unit multiple times because it was either drink or kill myself. I'd rather kill myself than drink, and so let's go to the psych unit. So I made the decision that I will do whatever it takes to stay sober. And so that's my journey. But I will say this too, okay? Some people's journey involves relapse,
Mhm.
because it shows other people the resiliency that you keep coming back.
I like that. Yes.
And so don't judge your relapses. Don't look at it as this is this horrible, shitty thing, and now I'm screwed for the rest of my life. Don't look at it that way, because this is a stepping stone that you get to help the next person through. I am Marie Slider Henriksen, and that's how I became this sober vet.
Recovery thrives on connection. Like, subscribe, and follow this Sober Vet podcast so more veterans can hear the message that change is possible.